story begins with Nacht der Untoten. 4 soldiers fight for their lives in a bunker. Verrückt releases and is set in Wittenau Sanatorium, filled with echoes of its bloody past alongside the new addition of perks. Scribbles on the walls hint at the nature of the research being done in the asylum, and it isn't pretty. The playable characters are 4 unnamed soldiers in a United States Marines recon unit, working under Operation Leader Tank Dempsey. They were originally sent into the asylum to extract the American spy Dr. Peter McKay, who'd been spying on Group 935, a German-led research organization. Map 3 is Shinonuma. The 4 main characters are Dr. Edward Richtofen, Tank Dempsey, Takeo Masaki, and Nikolai Belinsky. Hellhounds make their first appearance, as does the giant Tunguska meteorite and the Wunderwaffe. The crew teleport from Shinonuma to Deriz. It's there that Dr. Richtofen and Dr. Maxis had been exploring the science of teleportation, as well as the possibility of creating an undead army. Prior to the crew's arrival, Richtofen had actually trapped Maxis and his daughter Samantha inside one of the teleporters at the site, and catapulted them into time-space with unknown consequences. So, back to the present, the crew use a Wunderwaffe to overload the teleporter and find themselves inside Kino der Toten, another 935 outpost. We also learn from 5 that in 1963, Kennedy, Castro, McNamara, and Nixon experience a zombie outbreak inside the Pentagon itself. The next map is Ascension, and it takes place historically alongside 5. The crew assist a discarnate Dr. Gersh, victim of an unfortunate run-in with another scientist working at the site called Yuri Savoysky. They make their way from Ascension to Shangri-La, with a brief stop-off at Call of the Dead, during which we learn of George Romero and his cast's doomed trip to Siberia. It's during that detour that Richtofen gains possession of an ancient device known as the Golden Rod. They move on to Shangri-La and encounter Brock and Gary, 2 famous explorers doomed to die in their exploration of the tunnels and temples of the map. By delaying the duo's demise, the crew gained possession of a focusing stone of compressed element 115. From Shang, the crew traveled to Area 51, and then onwards to Moon. They used the previously attained artifacts to open a large obsidian pyramid known as the MPD, and they find Samantha inside. It turns out that she ended up on the Moon after being teleported away from Deriz by Dr. Richtofen, and she's been trying to kill the crew the whole time. Richtofen enters the MPD by swapping bodies with Samantha and assumes control of the zombies. In the process, 3 rockets are fired at Earth, which cause huge explosions and tectonic plate disruption. In Black Ops 2, we find out that there are survivors on Earth. One of them, Marlton Johnson, evades the nuclear fallout inside a shelter located at Nuketown. He meets up with Rossman, Samuel, and Misty in a rather foggy Hanford, USA. Richtofen and Maxis try to persuade the new 4 to do their bidding, which occurs in Transit, Die Rise, and Buried. In each of those maps, a pylon is powered for one of the 2 ethereal voices, in turn determining the endgame outcome of Buried. The decision is down to the player. If Richtofen takes control of the ether, he deletes Maxis from existence. If the opposite occurs, Maxis condemns Richtofen to life as a zombie, as well as making plans to reach out to his daughter Samantha, who is at this point trapped in Agartha. We also learn the story of Weasel, Sal, Finn, and Billy, a quartet of inmates inside Alcatraz prison. The story of Mob is our first deviation from the ongoing narrative we knew throughout World at War and Black Ops 1. The idea of the zombies multiverse is now fully canon. The characters in Mob of the Dead are trapped in a cycle, and only by letting go can their beginning become their end. At some point, the Origins universe Richtofen gets his hands on blood samples taken from 2 of the prisoners in Mob of the Dead. That very Richtofen then meets Takeo, Dempsey, and Nikolai for the first time in a Group 935 excavation site in northern France. This newly formed Origins crew assist a young girl whose voice they can mysteriously hear in their heads. Once their work there is done, the Origins crew teleport away, and we're given our first look at a mysterious house containing a different Samantha, a different Maxis, and a different Eddie to those we knew in World at War. 2 years pass between the end of Origins and the start of the next map, The Giant. In that time, Richtofen is armed with the knowledge he gains from the Chronorium, and he carries out his search for the summoning key, eventually finding it in Morgue City. Unbeknownst to Richtofen, the foibles of a magician, actress, boxer, and cop have caused an envoy of the alien Apothicon race called the Shadow Man to become trapped within the summoning key. Richtofen snatches the key from the outstretched arm of a keeper, another ancient race which exists across multiple dimensions and universes. He then teleports out, travels to the Giant, meets the other Origins crew members there, kills the Richtofen of the Giant universe known as Richtofen 1.0, traps his soul within the summoning key, and lights a beacon to allow Maxis to find them and help extract them from the site. By commandeering a giant robot, they travel to Griffin Castle, where Richtofen 1.0 had previously been working. There, they kill Dempsey 1.0 and then travel to Zetsubo no Shima to kill Takeo 1.0, who is suffering in a cell below the waves. Both of those souls get absorbed into the key. Before moving on to Stalingrad to look for Nikolai 1.0, the crew take a short detour to an unknown location, which, according to Richtofen, is an insurance policy in case they don't like where they end up. Well, there we have it. The full zombies storyline thus far in 5 minutes.